Welcome back to Pandemic Pills, Favipiravir for COVID, the podcast delving into the scientific journey of Favipiravir in the fight against COVID-19. Hi, I am Kanak, and each episode we explore a technical facet of this antiviral with the leading experts. Today, we are on episode 3, From Flu to COVID, Favipiravir origin journey. We will uncover the historical context of favipiravir development for influenza in Japan and how it was repurposed for COVID-19. Joining me is Aseema Mishra, a microbiology researcher with deep knowledge of antiviral development. Welcome to the show, Aseema.
Thank you so much, Kanak. I'm really excited to share the story of Favipiravir's origins and its pivot to COVID-19.
Yes, let's set the stage. Uh, Favipiravir wasn't created for COVID-19 and it started with influenza. So, can you walk us through its initial development in Japan?
Oh, absolutely. So, Favipiravir, also known by its brand name Avigan, was developed by Toyama Chemical, which is a Japanese pharmaceutical company, in the late 1990s and somewhere around early 2000s, you can say. The goal was to create a new antiviral to combat influenza, particularly for cases that were resistant to existing drugs like Tamiflu. Now, influenza, which is caused by RNA viruses, can be really devastating, as we know, especially in pandemics. So, there was a pressing need for novel therapies. And favipiravir emerged as a promising candidate because of its unique mechanism, that is, targeting the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase enzyme, or as we know it as RDRP, which is critical to the influenza's replication and as we have already discussed in the episode 1.
Yeah, that's a great starting point, I guess. What was the path to this approval for influenza in Japan, and were there any notable hurdles that you came across?
Yeah, well, the path wasn't straightforward, I would say. After extensive preclinical and clinical studies, favipiravir showed efficacy against various influenza strains, including seasonal and avian flu as well, in animal models as well as human trials. And Japan's regulatory body, the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Agencies, approved it in 2014, but with very strict conditions, I should mention. And it was authorized only for novel or re-emerging influenza strains resistant to other treatments, and only when the government deemed it necessary, like during a pandemic. And this limited approval stemmed from concerns about its safety profile, particularly potential teratogenicity, that is, risks to fetal development, as we know, based on animal studies which required careful risk benefit analysis.
Yeah, so it was a niche approval for extreme cases, I guess. So, can you tell us what are your opinions about what made favipiravir stand out compared to other influenza drugs at that time?
Well, its broad spectrum activity was a real game changer. Unlike Tamiflu, which targets a specific viral protein, Favipiravir's action against RNA polymerase made it effective. Favipiravir's action against RNA polymerase made it really effective against a wide range of influenza strains, including those with resistance to other drugs as well. And it also showed promise against other RNA viruses in lab studies, as we observed, like Ebola and West Nile virus, which hinted at its versatility. And this broad activity is what later sparked interest in repurposing it for COVID-19, which is another RNA virus, as we know.
Yeah, that versatility is key. How did the leap of from this influenza to COVID-19 happen when the pandemic hit in 2020? What's your opinion?
Well, when COVID-19 emerged, which was caused by SARS-CoV-2, which is an RNA virus, researchers quickly looked into existing antivirals for solutions, as developing new drugs from scratch takes years, as we are already aware. And favipiravir was a natural candidate because its mechanism, which is disrupting RNA polymerase, was relevant to SARS-CoV-2, as we covered in the episode one. And 2020 and early in 2020, scientists in China and Japan initiated studies to test its activity against SARS-CoV-2 in cell structures and animal models as well, which showed really promising results at the time. And this led to clinical trials in several countries to evaluate its potential in COVID-19 patients.
That's a rapid pivot. Can you tell us what were some of the challenges in repurposing this drug for a new virus like SARS-CoV-2?
Well, repurposing might sound very simple, but it's quite complex. First, SARS-CoV-2 has a different RNA polymerase structure than influenza, with a proofreading mechanism that might reduce favipiravir effectiveness, as we touched on earlier. And second, the dosing regimens developed for influenza, which is high loading doses followed by maintenance doses, needed adjustment for COVID-19, as episode two's pharmacokinetics discussion highlighted. Third, Thirdly, the safety concerns from its influenza approval, like teratogenicity, required careful consideration, especially since COVID-19 affected diverse populations, including pregnant women even. And finally, regulatory hurdles varied by country, with some like Russia and India granting emergency approvals, while others awaited more data.
And it's amazing how much groundwork from influenza research enabled that shift. And there were there any moment or studies that drove favipiravir adoption for COVID-19? What do you think?
Well, one pivotal moment I would mention was early 2020 when a small open label study in China reported that favipiravir reduced viral clearance time and improved chest imaging in mild to moderate COVID-19 cases compared to another antiviral. This sparked global interest, leading to larger trials in Japan, Russia, and even India. Japan, leveraging its experience with favipiravir, fast-tracked the studies, and by mid-2020, several countries had authorized its use for COVID-19 under emergency protocols, but yeah, they had authorized it. However, results were quite mixed, with some studies showing limited efficacy, which we will explore in the future episodes.
Okay, I think that's a mix of promise and uncertainty. So, it's totally. Uh, Looking back, what does favipiravir journey from influenza to COVID-19 teach us about antiviral development?
Well, it highlights the value of broad spectrum antivirals, and Favipirav's development for influenza gave us a head start against COVID-19, showing how investing in versatile drugs can prepare us for unexpected pandemics like COVID. It also underscores the challenges of repurposing, differences in viral biology, patient populations, and regulatory frameworks all complicate the process. And the story of favipiravir is a reminder that science is iterative, building on past work to tackle new threats.
Yeah, that's a powerful lesson, Aseema. Thank you for tracing favipirav's fascinating journey from flu to COVID-19. Listeners, join us for episode 4, where we will dive into clinical trial outcomes for favipiravir in COVID-19. If you are enjoying Pandemic Pills, Favipiravir for COVID, please subscribe, rate, and share. I'm Kanak, and we will catch you next time.